Some of you may not know me, but if you were on last week's process mapping webinar, then you've at least heard my spiel. So now you get to hear it again. My name is Randy Kowalczyk, and I'm the manager of continuous improvement for the WVU Industrial Extension. The Industrial Extension team is tasked with supporting organizations throughout West Virginia with a variety of needs. I specifically assist with workforce and continuous improvement needs, such as leadership development and training, lean manufacturing principles, job instruction development, and work instruction development, just to name a few. I graduated from West Virginia University with a Bachelor's of Science, and I've spent a little more than 10 years in industry. Early in my career, I was running a forklift and stacking 50-pound bags, but as I gained experience, I had the opportunity to get into management, where I primarily focused on production efficiency while working with regulatory bodies, helping to maintain site security, and explaining technical information to customers about products and processes. Before we get started today, I'd like to remind you of the other upcoming webinars we have scheduled. You can find a complete list of webinars and workshops in the events section of our website. All webinars run from 11 to 12 unless otherwise noted, and they are for free. I won't go through the entire list, but from the slide you can see that there are currently 6 webinars planned between now and early May, and they cover a wide variety of topics that are important to anyone who works in and supports manufacturing. In case you don't know, I'm going to tell you what the WVU Industrial Extension is. We are a department of West Virginia University, housed in the Statler College of Engineering and Mineral Resources. WVU is a land-grant university, which means it has a commitment to lead transformation in West Virginia through engagement across our beautiful state. The WVU Industrial Extension fulfills this mission by partnering with small and medium-sized manufacturers in West Virginia to support operational improvement and business growth. WVU Industrial Extension is West Virginia's one and only affiliate to the NIST MEP National Network. This national network has the honor of supporting the manufacturing community and has centers housed in all 50 states plus Puerto Rico. This unique arrangement provides the Industrial Extension the opportunity to support the manufacturing community from a national, state, and local level. The Industrial Extension focuses on developing consulting services that reflect client needs, provide hands-on education, and we work one-on-one with our clients. We serve you by delivering practical solutions in the areas of workforce, occupational health and safety, management systems, operational improvement, advanced manufacturing, leadership development, and innovation and growth services. I'd like to start us off with a poll question. If you know how to do a job or understand a process, you have the skill to teach it, motivate others to do it, and improve on it. All right, just about 50-50. The correct answer is false. It is not uncommon to promote from within, but if you have an employee that exhibits strong work ethic and mastery of their skills, you want to reward them. And that reward is usually some form of leadership. But unfortunately, just because somebody can execute a task extremely well doesn't automatically make them a good trainer or a good leader. With that mastery comes a level of understanding and common knowledge that may not be so common to the new employee. The grim reality is that usually this results in a promoted employee leaving the company or being demoted. I'd like to give you a quick history lesson about the job instruction method. It began in the United States in the 1940s during World War II to help the industry help itself produce more materials than had ever been thought possible, and at a consistently accelerating speed to win the war. When the industrial workforce left their jobs to go fight in the war, housewives filled the gaps to keep the machines running. Rosie the Riveter became an icon for women who worked in factories and shipyards. The new workforce, combined with the pace of production and frequent engineering changes, required supervisors to be on the shop floor, checking and coaching constantly. This made supervisory training even more important. A national network of professionals were drafted from industry to develop techniques to quickly ramp up production and lead these training efforts. The result of their work was training within industry, or TWI as it's commonly referred to, and it's a program still relevant and used today. Training within industry has 4 modules: job methods, focused on improving processes; job relations, focused on how to work with workers; job safety, focused on safety issues; and job instruction, which is learning job skills. Today, we'll talk about job instruction. Let's look at an example. Before shutting down production in 1944, the Boeing B-17 was one of the planes needed for the war effort. With the application of TWI, Boeing realized a 60% reduction in man hours per airplane. Flyaway rates, initially quoted at 75 per month in 1941, peaked at 364 in 1 month. That's 1 plane every 1.6 hours. The initial cost of the plane was $242,000 in 1940 and was reduced to $139,000 by March of 1944. That's a 42.5% reduction in just 32 months. Similar results were seen in shipbuilding using TWI. In the 2 years following the Battle of Midway, U.S. shipbuilders added 17 additional carriers, 10 medium carriers, and 86 escort carriers. For comparison, the Japanese only added 6 new carriers during that amount of time. That example was just one of many. The TWI service monitored 600 companies throughout the war, and the impact was a huge success. 86% were able to increase production by at least 30%, some much more than like we saw in the previous slide. All 600 companies kept a minimum reduction of 25% in training time, and nearly all saw a reduction of more than 25% in labor hours. Just over half saw scrap reduced by 25%, and all 600 companies saw at least a 25% reduction in grievances. Looking at these numbers, it was easy to see how successful TWI was, not only at improving production, but also improving work conditions and generating positivity throughout the workforce. A combination of things led to TWI being dropped after the war. Most viewed TWI as a wartime program and no longer saw a need for it. Since the U.S. infrastructure was one of the few not damaged by the war, manufacturers were quickly able to shift to mass production of consumer goods. And now that millions of men went off to fight the war were returning to their jobs, the millions of people trained by the TWI service were being displaced. Also, management was happy to get away from TWI because the program focused too much on how the employees were being treated. But this wouldn't be the last time we'd hear of TWI. 4 TWI trainers headed to Japan in the early 1950s to help them rebuild, and the early 2000s brought it back to the US. So you may be asking yourself what a process that began in the 40s to support the war effort has to do with us today. That's a good question, and I have 2 answers for you. First, the same declaration that employed Rosie the Riveter to manufacture supplies for the war effort was and is still being used to manufacture PPE for emergency and healthcare workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis. If you think about it, the COVID crisis has created a major disruption to our normal, just like World War II did back in the 40s. Second, job instruction can play a pivotal role in the success of your company if you have a reduction in workforce, lose key employees to retirement, or through attrition. Everyone is aware of the workforce issues that we face today as we try to do more with less. Job instruction can help those companies maintain quality and flex their workforce to address needs in order to meet ever-changing demand. So why not take a page from the history books and learn a lesson that many companies already have? Here's another poll. How do you train your team? All right. On the job training and job shadowing, which I think is very common in manufacturing. That's what I've always had experience with. And I think it works out well if you do it right. Job instruction, or JI, is defined as a way to get a person to quickly remember how to do a job correctly, safely, and conscientiously. There are three things in bold that are important to this method. Correctly will result in fewer defects. Safely will ensure fewer accidents and OSHA recordables. Conscientiously means that the trainee is taking their time and wants to do a good job, which is mostly a result of truly understanding the impact of mistakes. The TWI job instruction approach is a combination of three elements that work hand in hand to prove success: job instruction breakdown sheet, job instruction training approach, and job training matrix. I like to think of these as three gears that all function to keep your processes moving smoothly. Let's start by looking at the job instruction breakdown sheet. This is the center of the TWI JI process. Here's a basic template for the sheet. Think about something that you may have purchased recently that came with a rather lengthy instruction manual. Chances are there was a quick start guide included as well. Just a few pages, or maybe just some pictures to give you an idea of what you can do so you can start using what you purchased without hurting it or yourself. That's the same purpose of this breakdown sheet. Think of it as a quick start guide for tasks or a cheat sheet for trainers and trainees. We'll start by looking at the top part of the job instruction breakdown sheet. I'm going to use the Red Devil circuit board, which you may be familiar with if you participated in any of our Lean 101 Introduction to Lean Manufacturing workshops. If you have not or are interested, please reach out to Jamie Cope or myself. The first thing we need to do is name the task so we know what we're training on. Next, it's important to include all of the tools and materials necessary to complete the task. If you're training someone, you want to make sure you have everything you need. Otherwise, you look unprepared, and not only is this counterproductive, but also looks unprofessional and sets the wrong precedence for the trainee. Once you know what you're training on and have your tools and materials, let's talk about the zero step. A zero step is anything that must be done before you start this instruction. This could be as simple as confirming an order quantity, noting an empty Kanban to trigger production, or confirming work from a previous instruction was complete. In our case, we'll use the Kanban from our Lean 101 workshop as a trigger. Next, it's important to identify who wrote the instruction. This is helpful for questions, updates, and improvement opportunities. A document number should be added so that you can catalog work instructions and reference them to other documentation as necessary. A date is useful so you know when the instruction was written. And lastly, a rev level can be used to ensure that you're using the most current version. Remember, if you add a rev level, it'll need updated anywhere you reference this JIB to prevent training to the wrong document. Now the work instruction breakdown is completed. It gives you, the trainer, everything you need to be sure that you're prepared for conducting the required training. Now that we have everything we need, let's go to the meat of the JIB, the instructions. These instructions are broken down into three categories: important steps, key points, and reasons. The important steps are a logical segment of the operation when something needs to advance the work. Think of this as the what we are doing. The key points are anything that might make or break the job, injure the worker, or make a job easier to do. This can be thought of as the how we are going to do it. Next, we have the reasons. To me, this is probably the most important part because you're explaining the why the key points are required, and in many cases, that explanation can avoid unnecessary issues and provide a better understanding of the task. So going back to our Red Devil, let's add a couple of steps. There are two important steps in this process. We will work through them individually. The first important step is to insert the springs. There are three key points: align the board to color, whole side up, use two hands, and see complete per template. We also have three reasons for the key points: unable to insert springs if whole side is down, using two hands is faster and easier, and seating completely avoids rework. The second important step is to install the resistors. The key points: bend spring completely away from insert side, insert low on the spring, and follow colors on the template. And the reasons for the key points: bending spring away from insert side is easier for installation, inserting low on the spring allows space for the next operation, and allowing colors on the template prevents short circuiting. When you combine these pieces, you now have a completed job instruction breakdown sheet. While this may seem easy, it can be tricky to develop effective job instruction breakdowns. Depending on the size of your company, consider using a small group activity comprised of team members from the front line, supervision, engineering, and any other function that may be affected by the instruction. For smaller companies, work directly with the front line. These are the people that perform the task day in and day out, so that they're where you want to find the tips, tricks, and best practices. Each instruction should be no more than nine steps. Believe it or not, there's a reason for this. On average, we're able to remember information in a sequence of 9 to 10 items. Think about your phone number. With a security code, with an area code, it's 10 digits. What about a security number? 9 numbers. A zip code we all memorized when we were kids now has a 4-digit extension at the end for a total of 9 numbers. If a task requires more than 9 steps, break it down into multiple job instruction breakdowns to avoid overwhelming the worker. Think back to the Quick Start Guide reference. Just like a Quick Start Guide, job instruction breakdowns should be as short, sweet, and to the point as they can. If additional information is required, that can be produced using written work instructions and/or SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. A job instruction teaches the basics. Other reference material may be required. While we're talking about the basics of job instruction today, many companies customize this to fit their process. Some will add a column with symbols to identify safety concerns or another column for quality checks. Lastly, walk the breakdown. We always overlook, forget, or oversimplify something important. This is the best way to proof the document to ensure you have captured the best practices. Now that we've covered the job instruction breakdown sheet, let's move on to the job instruction training approach. The job instruction training approach requires 5 steps to ensure the trainee understands their responsibilities. Those steps are to prepare for instruction, prepare the worker to learn, present the operation, conduct a tryout performance, then follow up with the trainee. It's important that you prepare for the training. As a trainer, you set the example the trainee will follow. This includes your good and bad habits. It can be important to have all the tools, equipment, and materials ready prior for training so that you and the trainee can focus on just the training, not looking for what you need. If you're not training on the floor or at a point of work, arrange the training area to look as much like the actual work area as possible. We'll discuss that a bit more later. Lastly, never use makeshift tools or equipment. A screwdriver is not a hammer, and that's not a habit you want to start. Next, you should prepare the worker to learn. Start by putting them at ease. Find some common interests like hobbies, sports, etc., to help lessen the stress. Remember, they're learning something new that you already know, so they'll be nervous. Next, state the job you'll be training them to complete so that they understand what they'll be doing. Next, ask if they have any experience doing this type of job. Understanding what they already know will help you as a trainer and will also boost their confidence. With the groundwork laid, it's important to get them interested in learning the job. Talk to them about the importance of the process or product. Connect it to things they may see or have done in their own lives. The final step is preparing the worker to learn. The final step in preparing the worker to learn is to make sure that they have the correct position or stance to complete the job. As you conduct training, this will help familiarize them with the process. The trainer will now complete the task 3 times. First, identifying the important steps prior to completing each step. Once the trainer has gone through all the important steps, they will start over with each important step and then give the related key points. Now go through the document, important step by important step, introducing the key points. Once the important steps and key points have been introduced, go through the process a 3rd time, introducing reasons for the key points. Go through the document one last time, important step by important step, introducing the key points for each important step, and then the reasons for the key points. The goal is repetition. Once the trainer completes this process, the trainee will have heard and seen the completed process 3 times and should start to become somewhat familiar. After the trainer presents the operation, the trainee will conduct a tryout performance, repeating the process a total of 4 times. The first time, completing the process in silence to the best of their ability, with the trainer correcting any mistakes they make along the way. This helps to bridge what the trainee saw and gives the trainer a chance to assess what they've retained. The second time, completing the process, the trainee will identify the important steps prior to completing each step to ensure they remember the steps. The third time, the trainee will identify the important steps and the key points prior to completing each step to ensure they remember those steps. Finally, the fourth time, the trainee will identify the important steps, key points, and reasons for the key points prior to completing each step. At this point, the trainee will have seen the process 7 times and should be comfortable with attempting to complete it on their own. Now that the trainee should have a solid grasp on their work responsibilities, let them work on their own, but don't just push them in the deep end and hope they can swim. Give them some training wheels. Start by providing a production target for the trainee so that they can be easily attained on their grasp of the process. Next, establish a point of contact for any questions. This lets the trainee work on their own, but know there's somebody nearby that can help resolve issues that may arise as the trainee finds their footing. Keep in mind, this should be somebody extremely familiar with the task. Now that the trainee has a target and point of contact, set the expectation for the pace by suggesting a time that you will return to check on their progress. And finally, ask what questions they have. Now that we've covered job instruction breakdown sheets and job instruction training approach, let's talk about identifying training needs. This is an example of a job training matrix. As you can see, it lists tasks across the top and employees down the side. As you find an employee and connect them with the task, it lets you know their skill level. You can see this example uses a pie chart and quarters. Some companies will use a number or some other system. It's all about personal preference. Some other things I want to point out is that the training results at the bottom are the training results at the bottom of the table. This allows you to plan for training as needed by task. In that same vein, on the right, there's an individual capabilities listing for each employee, along with the individual and business needs. Lastly, there's a note for any needs and changes in the bottom right. This matrix can be extremely beneficial in creating an annual training plan because it provides a visual representation of capabilities and needs. It allows you to identify areas where there are gaps in capabilities, as well as other areas where personal development may be beneficial to both the company and their team. This can be used to assess team members' performance and experience to develop job paths for new employees so they become more effective, quicker, or determine promotions and raises. Here's our last poll question. Do you agree with this statement? If the trainee hasn't learned, the trainer hasn't taught. All right, if you said yes, then you are in line with the TWI service because that was their mantra and still is today. To summarize our time together today, the purpose of this webinar was to provide an overview of the TWI job instruction process to help you maintain operations during crisis. We've talked about how to create a job instruction breakdown sheet, how to use that job instruction breakdown sheet to train, and how to create a training matrix to help identify training needs. The benefits to this process include increases in profits, production, and job satisfaction. You will also see reductions in training time, accidents, scrap and rework, and damage to tools and equipment. Most importantly, you will have standardized work that breeds consistency. Using the TWI job instruction process can help lessen some of the pain you all feel at the workforce. It's hard to find good people, but if you have a good system to train employees and standardize their work, you may find that you can make an okay employee function as a pretty darn good one. Now on to the question and answer portion of our program. I will put up my information so that you can see my contact info, and don't hesitate to get a hold of me or Jamie if you have any questions or need assistance.
Yeah, great stuff, Randy. Thank you. So if you've got any questions, now would be a great time to put them in a chat. And I did get a few while this was going on. One here says, can I customize the job breakdown sheet? Talking about the job breakdown sheet. Maybe you could give some insight on how to customize that, or if it's customizable.
Definitely. What we talked about today was basically a by the book TWI process, but we've seen companies add their own columns, like I brought up before, with safety symbols or quality checks. A lot of the things we talk about are just tools. If you need to customize them for what you need, then of course you can customize them for what you need.
Okay, great. There's one here too. Wanting to know about going over 9 steps of the process. Can you go over 9 steps?
I mean, of course, it's your process, so you can use the tool how you want, but I would not recommend doing it. I mean, I think we've all started off as a new person. I just started off here as a new person 5 months ago, and things can get a little bit overwhelming when you have all these processes and things thrown at you. So try to keep it at 9 steps. And if it's just a very involved process, try to break it down into 2 separate processes and break those into 9 steps.
Okay. And then I always like this question. How can you help us with this? Is there anything that we do to support that? So I'll let you tackle that one, Randy.
Yeah, we can do a train the trainer workshop where we can train the team and shadow the team until you guys feel confident. And then we can work directly with the team to save time and provide value as an outside eye, give you guys any advice that you're asking for, try to solve any problems you have. And then we can create the documentation if you want. I know when I used to work with the industrial extension, that's how I would use them, have them make my documentation, because I didn't want to sit down and do that.
Okay. I don't see any more questions coming in right now. So thanks again, Randy. This was great information. And hopefully everybody's going to check out wvmep.com/webinars to check out some of our upcoming webinars. We'd like to see you again. And if you have any questions, you've got Randy's contact information up on the screen right there, or you can reach out to me or anyone else on our team at any time. We're always happy to talk to you. So thanks a lot, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, wait. We got a question.
I'm here.
Okay, are there templates available that would be available to download?
Yeah, we can send along a template.
Okay. Hey, if you get that to me whenever I send out the recording and the slide deck, I'll include that. So if we've got a template, we'll go ahead and just send that out.
There you go.
All right.
Good catch.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.